in like any imaging, so I don't really know.
If you do like half and like.
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay.
Hi girl, I have a sandwich. I have a sauce.
Myself.
I dip it. I dip it. You just dip it.
Hey, this is the winning team right here. Winning team. Yeah. Coming out, you know. We're winning this. I'm trying to tell you the rules. Hey, where is the...
Now look at mine. He's got a fake too.
This is what's going to happen. We're playing capture the flag. This is one of the flags. And get it past your line. Does that make sense? Even if you live in it, like, six. How many arrows y'all have? Get one arrow each.
Oh my gosh.
3, 2, 1, go! Oh, okay, let's go back.
One, two, three. I'd say smile, but we can't tell. All right, beautiful. Thanks.
3, 2, 1, go!
Okay,
from M. How many of you guys know M? If you don't know M, she's amazing. We're excited to hear from her. So give it up one more time.
Like Matt said, my name is Em. I lead Young Life, so I'm on staff with Boulder Valley Young Life. And some of y'all in this room know what that is, some of you don't. That's fine. If you come to Wednesday nights, we're just doing the same thing over at Young Life, just in a different place. And you're like, boom, I'm double checked out, I don't care. Why is that girl talking to me? And so I was thinking about it before I came, and I was like, I have no idea how to help them know who I am at all. And so the only thing I can come up with is just showing you guys a couple of pictures. It's gonna be like speed dating, but it's not dating, it's just gonna be fast. We're gonna look at pictures and it's gonna be awesome. And one of them's gonna pop up here at some point. Okay, that's me. Yeah, I grew up in Southern California. Full disclosure, that's me in Wisconsin, but I couldn't find a picture of me on the beach. So there was at least a lake behind me, and I thought that was the best place to start. That's me as a kid, grew up in Southern California, it's really great. You can go to the next one. I played a lot of sports. I was like the most competitive kid. All I cared about was sports, and it was my literal whole identity until I was about 16. And that was me my freshman year in high school, which is pretty close to a lot of y'all's age. And that was the first time I made the newspaper. It was really cool. That was like the first picture of me that was in the newspaper. And it was great. Played field hockey. Next picture. Okay, this is my family. Because you guys need to know them. If you're going to know me, you got to know these people. On the far side, that's my brother Taylor and his wife Pagan. And their kids, Aurelia and Vanderbilt. Megan is actually pregnant. She's going to have a baby next month, so they're going to have 3. That's going to be great. That's my dad, David, and my mom, Cassie. And then that's the woman of the hour, my sister Kelly, getting married to her husband, Brandon. And then that's me. And then that's my other sister, Katie, and her husband, Zach. And they're 2-week-old at the time baby married. So that's great. She flew as a 2-week-old to Florida. That's my family. That's the most recent picture I have of us. That was in October. And then the last picture, wow, guys, that's me at Buffs game, because guess what? Let's go Buffs. Thank you. I was a Buffalo. I'm not anymore, but forever Buffs, so I really am. And that was me at one of like my first college football games, and those are some of my friends. And honestly, you guys, night games are so much better than day games. Like, you just get sweaty and sunburned at day games. So once you go to CU, because you're all going to go to CU, it's going to be great, just go to the night games. They're way more fun. So that's me in a nutshell, real quick. And when I was in college, so like I said, I was at CU. And when I was in college, what a lot of people didn't know at the time is that I was really struggling with depression. And I like to think of myself as like a super happy-go-lucky. I didn't understand why it was happening to me. And that's not going to be the focus of tonight, but it doesn't matter for the story that I'm going to tell y'all. And so if you haven't experienced depression, or you don't know anyone who has, or anything like that, one of the side effects is that like a lot of times you start having insomnia and you can't sleep, and then you're just tired, right? And so I would go into my school days, and I wanted to stay in bed, but I didn't, because my parents were paying for college, and I looked at that as a blessing, and I didn't want to waste their money. And so I would still go to class because I had a guilty conscience. And then I had like another guilty conscience come up, because I would sit in class and I just like wasn't myself. And I wasn't very present, and I like didn't engage with people or my professors, and I was having a hard time, and I was like falling asleep in class. And I was so worried about what my teachers were going to think of me, and if they were going to think I was like this really rude kid and all this stuff. And I went to my business ethics class on the first day of school. And my professor, she put on kind of like this tough girl front, and she was really funny, and it was really intimidating, but I had 2 thoughts on the first day of class. The first was, wow, I really want to be her friend. She seems really cool. And then the second immediately after was like, wow, I really don't want to make her mad. Like, it sounds like that woman, it is not a good thing to be on her bad side. And so the fear continued to creep in of like, man, she's going to think that I'm just like the most rude kid ever. And so I would go to class, and I was like just falling asleep half the time. And midway through the semester, she gives us an assignment. And she's like, all right, guys, I got this huge project for you, and I'm going to bless you with a gift. You get to choose your team that you're going to do it with, and you need to choose 4 of y'all together, and email me tonight your teams, and we'll put it in the system, and it'll be great. And I left class, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm working by myself. I don't want to work with anybody. I don't like group projects, and I definitely don't want to work with anybody right now because I need to be on my own schedule, my own time. And so I emailed her and I was like, team of one, like it's me. I am doing it alone. And there was silence. And then that was on Monday. And then I got an email Tuesday that just said, come to my office hours Thursday at 1:30. And I was like, I finally did it. Like I finally made her mad enough that she is asking me to come to her office hours and she's gonna reprimand me and she's gonna tell me how rude of a student I've been. And like little does she know, her class is actually my favorite class and she's actually my favorite professor. I just am not myself right now. And so I'm like, mind you, this is Tuesday, I get an email from her telling me to come to her office hours Thursday at 1:30. And so I'm just like this anxious mess. And I'm like waiting for Thursday at 1:30. Thursday at 1:30 rolls around and I walk into her office and she's like, shut the door behind you. And I was like, office hours are for everybody. That's not, are you sure? Okay. And I like shut the door and she's like, have a seat. And so I come and I like sit down in the chair and I just put my head down because I'm like, I don't even want to know what comes next. Like I don't want this woman to be mad at me. I like actually think she's really cool and she doesn't think that I care about her or the class. And then I started to notice some things in my surroundings. I noticed that the room was like it was perfectly lit. Like the lighting didn't feel too harsh. I realized that it smelled really nice and the candles were lit. And I saw some mints on the table. But then the next thing I saw is what caught my eye. I looked to my right and there were tissues sitting on the chair next to me. And I was like, why am I actually here? I feel like I'm not here for what I think I'm here for. So I like got the courage to look up and I was met with something that I was not expecting. I looked up and I was met with like the most concerned, like motherly gaze from my professor. I was like, what is it? And the next thing that came out of her mouth was, how are you doing? Are you okay? And I just started to cry. Like I just like immediately broke down. And I'm gonna pause right there in the story for a second. But I do want to point out one thing. I thought that I was going to her office to get like absolutely just laid into. Like I thought she was gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna fail you, like all this stuff, whatever. And my professor was the one who had the power in that situation, right? Like I was the student, she was my professor. She had all the power in the world to decide my future in her class. And instead she used her power to get me to her office and to check in on me and make sure I was doing okay in life. So she used her power for me in that moment, not for herself. And I think that Jesus did a really similar thing. I actually know he did a similar thing, but in an even bigger way. And that's the story that I want to tell you guys tonight. So just real quick to catch us up kind of to where we are and what I'm going to tell you about. Whether you've been coming to Wednesday nights or Young Life, I guarantee you your leaders have been talking about Jesus somewhere along. And they've probably told you a little bit about who he is, what he's like, the characteristics of Jesus, maybe that he's this like really loving guy, he's got unconditional love, whatever it is they've been telling you, probably telling you something, right? And maybe they've also been talking a little bit about the story of Jesus. I know we have in Young Life, my guess is that y'all have it Wednesday nights too. And they probably talked about the reality that like we are humans, right? And we have this need that we desire to be filled, and a lot of times we fill it in ways that aren't sustainable. And they probably told you that like Jesus he gives you eternal life. He's like the way that you can fill it and all this stuff. And you're like, but what does that mean? And then you're hit with this thing of like, yeah, and sometimes we know that and we still turn our back and go, no thanks, I'm going to do it my way. And that's that thing we call sin. It's like that really big word, right? And sin separates us from God. And we as humans, on our own, we have no way back. And that's where our story picks up. So I'm going to read you out of John 19. And at this point in the story, Jesus is claimed to be the Son of God, right? And we know that's true, but back then, they did not know that was true at this point in time. And so the punishment, if you claim that you're the Son of God, was to be killed. And so like all these important people, like civilians are crowded around, important people are crowded around, and they're like, crucify this guy. He's the worst. And that's what's happening in our story. So it says this. It says, from then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting, if you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar. When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out, sat him on the judge's seat at a place known as the stone table. It was on the day of preparation of the Passover, and it was about him. Here is your king, Pilate said to the Jews. I want to stop there for a second. Pilate at first was like, I don't want to kill this guy, I don't. And we read in these verses that his decision is swayed, right? He's like, all right, fine, I'm going to bring him. But the thing I actually want to point out is that when he delivers Jesus, he says, here is your king. I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the word king, I think power. I think someone who's in a power position, they're ruling over a lot of people, they have the power and authority to go like, you do this, you follow my reign, right? So I think of like a powerful person when I hear the word king. The story goes on to say, but they shouted, take him away, crucify him. Shall I crucify your king, Pilate asked. We have no king but Caesar, the chief priest answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over to be crucified. So again, we hear this word king, right? They're reusing it. King, this, that, whatever. And then we hear this momentous verse where Pilate actually hands Jesus over. And he's like, crucify him, do what you will. Like, go for it. And really quick, I'm not going to focus on crucifixion. It is really, it's really dark and really sad. But the thing that you should know is that, this way of death is, the most time-consuming and painful and, brings on the most suffering. And that's the way they're choosing to kill Jesus. That's what I want you to know tonight. So then it goes on to say this. It says, carrying his own cross, he went to the place of the skull. Just note the fact that, the cross is made out of wood, right? It's, made out of trees. Very heavy. Jesus is carrying this thing up the hill by himself as he's about to be put on it. That's wild. And I feel like this adds to all the things. And then here's where I'm going to finish up the story tonight. It says, there they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. This is not theological, but every time I read this, I think it's really interesting that they're like, oh, Jesus is this scum of the earth, he's a liar, all these things, and then they still put him in the middle, which is a place of importance when they're killing him. I've always thought that was interesting. But again, bring it back real quick. He's on the cross dying, and there's a sign above him that claims that he's a king, yet again, right? Whatever you think of when you think of a king, I share what I think of. And so what I'm going to say is that Jesus, he's a powerful dude. He had power, right? He died a king. Jesus was a king. And I think that people with power can do one of 2 things with it. I think that people with power can go, I'm going to use this selfishly, and I'm going to use it to rule an iron fist and dictate the world and do whatever the heck I want and just tell people how to live their life. Or I think people with power can take it another direction and go, I'm going to figure out how to use this to best serve the people around me and use it to engage in a way that actually, serves people and betters their life. And I think that if we're honest, probably what we see a lot in society and in the hallways at school and just in the life around us and on social media and all this stuff is people using power probably the first way that I explained it. I think that a lot of times people get in a power position and they love to just engage in what it brings them. And a lot of times that means it's hurting other people. And my guess is that most, if not all of us, at some point or another have been hurt by someone in power or watched someone we love be hurt by someone with power. And tonight what I want you to know is that Jesus changes that story. Because Jesus is the most powerful man ever, and he used his power for good. He used his power and he went to the cross and he died for me, for you, for everyone in this room, right? That's in the same way that I told you about my professor, who she knew I needed to pass her class. It would have been so easy for her to be like, hey, you've been falling asleep in class. It's pretty disrespectful. Your grade is not good. You've chosen to do this project alone when I clearly told you to do it for other people, which means you're probably destined to fail this thing. You're done. Would have been so easy. Would have been really easy for her to be like, you need to report to my office every day until your grade changes, or I'm just going to fail you. And she didn't do that. She looked at a human and was like, that girl's hurting. She saw a need and she tended to it, and she used her authority and her power to actually go like, hey, I see you, and someone cares. Jesus did the exact same thing in like all of the exponential ways. Like, you know exponential functions, how it's like really annoying because it just literally goes forever and it's like this massive thing that you can't even comprehend. Like that. That's what Jesus did. He saw a need, which was like, oh, the world's broken. The people have no way back to God. I'm going to step into that mess here for a second, and I'm going to go take all my power that I have, and I'm going to use it in the most selfless way I can possibly think of. And I'm going to go die so that they have a way back to God. So that the story can be reconciled in the way that the Father promised, right? That's incredible. Like, I changed my life forever. And absolutely change yours if you wanted to. Tonight, when you go home and you're brushing your teeth, I think that maybe some of y'all, this is the first time you ever heard about Jesus, and you're like, I don't really know what to think or what to feel about that, and that's okay. Sometimes I am like, wow, how do I even comprehend that? So when you go home tonight, the first thing I want you to dare to think about is that word power. Like, what is your experience of people in power? In what ways have you experienced power or people around you, and like, what has that done? And then if you like dare to take that step, I want you to think about that story that I just told about Jesus. Why don't you think of the way that he used his power? Because like I said, he changes the story, like forever. And is living proof that like, actually it doesn't have to be done the way that we see it modeled in the Bible. He models it in a way that matters. Because he models it in a way that's selfless, where he goes, you first, me last. And he chose y'all. And he chose me. And that is so cool. So I want you to think about that. I just want you to ponder it. I am going to pray. And then y'all can hang and do whatever. I think there's the popcorn popping upstairs. I can smell it. It's great. You can do whatever you want. And if you are like, wow, something Em said was really confusing, or like, wow, I really want to know more about that, your leaders are all here. We're all happy to answer questions. I'm happy to answer questions. Whatever it is, the rest of the night, it's yours to figure out. Okay? I'm going to pray. Jesus, thank you, for the opportunity to be together tonight. It is so fun to meet new friends, to see new faces, to see faces that I would love to run into, that I already know. Lord, that is a blessing, a gift. Thank you that you give us each other to be in community with, Lord. Lord, would we recognize what you did for us on the cross? Would that be something that we are willing to ponder, even if just for like 1 minute? It is worth our time. So would we be people who go home tonight and actually think a little bit more about that? Think about how we've seen power play out in the world, and think about the way that you rewrite that story for us in the most beautiful way possible. All right, pray that.
Thank you. You took the one that was most full. Actually, I was most full. That's why you're alive.
And like he doesn't take you always ever